2 days ago, this road to Quang Tri was open. Yesterday, it could be used with caution. But today, the communists have blown a bridge 3 miles on. There are snipers all along the route. And it is closed to everyone except the refugees. South Vietnamese convoys, with supplies for troops cut off in Quang Tri, wait by the side of the road a safe distance from the snipers. The vehicles began moving forward, but they didn't move far. Already some of the lorries have turned back to way. The soldiers follow, carrying with them the wounded who've been hit by the first snipers earlier this morning. The wounded are evacuated whenever a suitable vehicle passes. Sometimes it's a bus, or an ox cart, or an ammunition truck. Sometimes the wounded just die waiting. A small unit of rangers is left behind. A few stay on the bridge where the road crosses the river at Phong Dien, though it's more likely that if the bridge is blown up, it'll be by the South Vietnamese trying to stop communist tanks from crossing. Already, South Vietnamese tanks have been brought back from the hills to the road as the first line of defense, which, in all the fights in the past few weeks, they have shown themselves not to be. On the road behind them, I spoke to the American advisor in the area, Major Robin Sheridan.
Basically what's happened here, as far as we can tell from our small area here, is that when the refugees were moving south, is the time that the NVA decided they would throw their 130 guns on the highway, and just about 1,000 meters north of us, they were just blowing away the women and kids all day. They've moved very close to QL1 with their probably company-sized units, which have temporarily, I would say, closed US1 until we can get enough assets in there to clear them out. We've been running airstrikes all day and firing the naval guns in there, but we've got to get the road open to Quang Tri. That's basically what we're supposed to be doing.
So Quang Tri is effectively under a state of siege now?
I would think so. I would think so right now. If you can't get into it, I would say so. We can still get the helicopters in there, but by road, no.
The surest sign that the communists are spreading their forces out across the countryside is to see the sprawl of refugees leaving it. They are not all from Quang Tri. They've moved out of their villages on each side of Highway 1 as the communist units have moved in. They all want to get to Hue, and they fight each other for a place on any transport going there. And they fight with soldiers who've thrown away their helmets and rifles and who are trying to smuggle themselves away from the fighting. If they're caught, they know they'll be shot. But today that didn't seem to worry them as they ran for the lorries. No one here can remember such a flood of refugees south since the last communist offensive during Tet in 1968. The alarming thing is that thousands of South Vietnamese troops have joined them. Alarming because only a few small fire bases are now left between the approaching communist forces and the city of Hue. But at Phong Dien, 10 miles south of Quang Tri, a small company of Marines have stayed in position, despite the odds against them. At this position, which is the last line of defense, the South Vietnamese have brought up their few remaining tanks and their armored personnel carriers. By radio, they are controlled by a South Vietnamese major 800 yards back. With him was an American advisor who was coordinating air attacks and fire from American destroyers who were off the coast 6 miles away. On the right of us, the road from Quang Tri was littered with what was left of a South Vietnamese convoy. Lorries were still smouldering, ambulances, with the dead still inside them, wrecked by B-40 rockets.
So the story is being repeated up here in the north, except that for Highway 13, we read now Highway 1, and except for An Loc, we now read Quang Tri. The South Vietnamese, despite their overwhelming power in the air, despite their artillery and strength on the ground, are now retreating back towards Hue, which is what the communists are after. Michael Nicholson, News at 10, on the road to Quang Tri, South Vietnam.